Hello, I'm Nick, and this is Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. Yes, according to IGN, and only IGN, via a source, Warner Brothers are denying the Rolling Stone article about Ezra Miller. Well, they're not exactly denying it. They're calling it an exaggeration. Should we read what this Warner Brothers source has said? We will shortly. Isn't it interesting that WB always talk via sources? They barely make any public statements themselves. This is something else that Zaslav and Discovery are going to have to look at. Anyway, according to IGN, the Rolling Stone story about Ezra Miller published this week is exaggerated, and there has never been a meeting between Warner Brothers and DC executives about what happened. IGN also reveals that Ezra Miller did not suffer any punishment from the studio. So hang on a minute. They're denying it or calling it an exaggerated article, and IGN can exclusively reveal, IGN, predominantly that deals with gaming, by the way, can reveal that Ezra Miller never received any punishment. So Warner Brothers are publicly stating via a source that they didn't punish a man who was arrested for alleged intimidation and aggressive behavior. Wow! Are you publicly stating that, Warner Brothers, that you let your employees get away with these kind of alleged things? Because all you have to do is go to Hawaii and talk to the police there. It happened. Everyone's talking about it happening. There are witnesses at the Hawaii karaoke bar. 2 people have filed a restraining order, and Warner Brothers believe this is not enough to punish an actor. Do you know what I make of this so-called denial of just an exaggeration of an article? What it means is that everything that Rolling Stone has actually reported is absolutely true. Yes, everyone, because let's translate the word exaggerated, exaggeration. It's making something bigger than it was. So that means there are issues with Ezra Miller. The studio are concerned, but maybe not as concerned as Rolling Stone claim they are. Why didn't they just flat out deny the whole situation? Why didn't they publicly come out, put out a statement and say, we stand behind Ezra Miller, you know, people are trying to take him down, he's a good man, he was aggravated, that's why he did what he did. I'm not saying that's the case. Why aren't they vehemently defending him? Because they can't. Because all these alleged things are probably true. I'll say probably because I wasn't there and I don't know. And everyone, the question still is there. Why was this movie delayed, the Flash movie? Why is said director of the Flash, Andy Muschietti, not speaking about the project, not even commenting on a delay? Everyone else commented on their delays at DC Live Action, but not Andy. What's going on? There's no smoke without fire. Something tells me the Rolling Stone have got a few more allegations to make and revelations about Ezra Miller, and maybe even about the future of DC Live Action. Now, according to Variety, today is the day. Later on today, it should be officially announced that David Zaslav and Discovery have merged with AT&T to create Warner Brothers Discovery. They won't be open for business today, but they will be from Monday. And they will be a going concern from Monday. So, wow, you start a new job, you take over a company, and you've got to deal with this. But not just this. You've got the Fantastic Beasts situation. You've got the DC situation. Because the Flash movie, everyone, is like a domino. It's a domino effect, right? If the Flash movie falls and there's an issue and they can't release it as it is, right? Then that domino, basically that knocks all the other dominoes down. Because Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Black Adam, all these films are all connected to this Flashpoint multiverse strategy. So the Flash movie has to work for the rest of it to work. And there lies the problem. We've had leaks, huge leaks. And people say, well, these films are always leaked. Yeah, but they don't always go to the mainstream. And they're not, these leaks don't always go to us. The leaks I've seen on Twitter, I've never seen so many leaks about a movie come onto Twitter before. What's going on? And, this is down to Toby Emmerich. He's got no control over any situation. And this is the man that David Zaslav has put his faith in. Well, not totally. Because apparently he will no longer have control on what's greenlit. Over on HBO Max, it looks like poor old Toby is being depowered. Now, the ongoing theory is that he's got 100 days of his contract left or something like that, and they're just wielding this contract down. Now, I don't necessarily think that's true. I hope it's true, but I don't want to get my hopes up yet again, because the removal of this man is so important, because he's not a good executive. He's not a good Warner Brothers Pictures chairman. It's as simple as that. So, this denial, although it's not really a denial, about the reports in Rolling Stone magazine about Ezra Miller being an exaggeration, just tells me that it's all true. And as I say, the studio hasn't even come out publicly themselves to defend one of their actors. They're using a source via IGN, a gaming site. I repeat, a gaming site. So I don't believe that it is an exaggeration. I believe it's true. What's going on here, though? Where is this information coming from about Ezra Miller in the first place? Could it be that someone's trying to take down Ezra Miller because of the way he identifies? Is he being targeted? Because the fandom menace have been very interested about taking down this person for a very long time. Now we know where the fandom menace stand politically, so there could be something in that. But me as a YouTuber can only work off the information that I'm given. And all I can go off is what's in Rolling Stone magazine. We know he did something. We know he was arrested for it. I'm not sure if he was charged. He was released on bail. And a couple have taken out a restraining order against him. That's pretty bad. I think we all agree. Yes, it is. So I believe what Rolling Stone said, and I stand by my assessment that the DCEU is in huge trouble right now, and this Flash movie is in huge trouble right now. And I'll stand by something else I've been saying for a while. Since the delay of the Flash movie, we may never see this Flash movie. I want to see it. There was another kind of image of the prequel comic from the Flash. Very exciting. A stunning image. I think it looks great. I'm excited for that prequel comic. I want some kind of confirmation that the DCEU is still in a strong position. It doesn't look like it, does it? And that doesn't even underline the rumours of Henry Cavill not being Superman anymore. And I mean, even if he is teased in that post-credit scene, that means we don't see Henry Cavill for the entire movie, apart from some stock footage from Man of Steel. So that's not a good thing. When you're doing a Flashpoint movie and you're showing all your, DC live-action characters and actors, right? And Henry Cavill, turns up at the end? I don't know. But that's better than nothing, right? So we just don't know what's happening. We don't know what Discovery are going to do, what their plans are. Do they have any plans? David Zaslav hasn't got any experience in this game. He's used to working on reality television and documentaries. What experience has he got? Who is he bringing in to help him? Well, at the moment, he's brought a lot of people from Discovery, reality television executives. I find this situation, and I don't know about you, utterly frightening. So I will, of course, keep you posted on the Ezra Miller situation. But for me, this denial, this claim of an exaggerated report from Rolling Stone just tells me that Rolling Stone weren't exaggerating and in fact were bang on. So we all think that we can, do a better job at constructing the DC Extended Universe than WB Pictures. So shall we have a go right here and right now today on Friday's edition of the DCEU Daily? Let's say I was in charge of Warner Brothers Discovery. Imagine I was David Zaslav. Howdy there, I'm David Zaslav, and I'm going to do everything right anyway, right? So just imagine I'm David Zaslav, and I get to make all the big decisions. So first of all, I say, because of creative differences, we can no longer continue with the DC Extended Universe. We are going to shelve it, pause it, it's over, everything. No Restore the Snyderverse, no Central DCEU, we are starting again. So I start again, and I implement and utilize the people, the writers at DC Comics, because they're the best people to help me. Because even though I'm a big DC fan, I don't know the comics so well. So after speaking to many, many comic book writers, I decide the first movie in my brand new DC Extended Universe is Green Lantern. So you're asking, Mick, why Green Lantern? Green Lantern is Star Wars in DC Comics. The whole thing, the Lantern Corps, the whole thing is bigger than Star Wars. It's its own universe. It's a universe within a universe. It is not just about Hal Jordan. Some people think, normies think it's just about Hal Jordan. It's not. Hal Jordan. We've got John Stewart. We've got Guy Gardner. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I can't remember the other characters' names off the top of my head. This is something that could be a franchise on its own. And so I would make a Green Lantern movie, then a TV show spun off from the movies over on HBO Max. So we start off with Green Lantern. Now, with adaptions, they don't have to be straight adaptions. So I would want to involve Hal Jordan and John Stewart in my movie. So you could have a situation maybe that we change John Stewart a little bit. Maybe Hal Jordan is the older statesman. Maybe he adopted John Stewart when he was a boy. And maybe the ring comes to John Stewart, right? Now, Hal Jordan's not going to allow his son to go up to put on a ring and go up to space on his own. So basically, it's agreed that they go up there together. And then they realize what responsibility is wearing a Green Lantern ring. And so what you get here is not just a story about someone from Earth, a human being given this extraterrestrial responsibility, ring of power, if you like. It's a father and son story as well. And what we do by introducing this first story is expand the Green Lantern universe. We meet different characters. But back on Earth, there is already a Justice League. There's already a Watchtower. There's already a Hall of Justice. Wonder Woman's there. Batman's there. Plastic Man's there. Basically, the legions in the future. Everything. This whole DC universe is already set up. And let me explain to you why that's important. We're not in 2008 anymore, whenever the first Iron Man came out. Marvel were the first ones to do a comic book extended universe. Nobody saw it coming. There wasn't much pressure on them when they did that. So they had time to do standalone after standalone and build up the Avengers, right? DC now don't have that situation. That's why they're doing the Flashpoint story, so they can have a ready-made Justice League when Barry goes back to the new timeline, right? Hopefully we still see that movie, because I must admit the leaks sound awesome. But anyway, I'm starting again. So DC haven't got the time to build out a brand new universe. So you have that universe already. And you cameo all these different characters. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, as I say, Plastic Man, Shazam, all of them. But you really try and keep them faithful to the comics. You don't try and deconstruct anything. You, for once, please the fans and the mainstream at the same time. So a lot of people would say to me, oh, Mick, we don't like this idea of Jon Stewart being like maybe a teenager and Hal Jordan being his adopted father. Well, I think it will be a very good father and son story. And it will be kind of interesting to have father and son on OR and having really them both having to prove that they are worthy of this responsibility. And, you know, you've got Sinestro trying to stir the pot at the same time. As I say, I don't know, you know, the lore of Green Lantern so well. So I know about, is there the Yellow Lanterns, there's the Red Lanterns, there's lots of different things. After the movie flopped, they did an animated series, and I watched that a lot, and that animated series is cool. And it did teach me a lot about Lantern lore, but I don't know everything. So I think a Green Lantern movie would be a great introduction to a brand new DC extended universe, because we've had one Green Lantern movie, which wasn't great. A lot of people criticise that movie for giving Ryan Reynolds a CGI costume. The CGI costume isn't the problem. It's the design of the CGI costume. It looked like a cartoon put onto a man, right? Look at the CGI armour that Zod and Jor-El had in Man of Steel. That's CGI, but you can't tell. It's CGI. So good CGI doesn't matter. Now, personally, I'd rather see Green Lantern and the other Lanterns wearing proper costumes that look really cool. Because I would like one day to see a practically shot, nearly totally comic book movie. Now, obviously, with Green Lantern, you can't do that. It would have to be a lot of VFX, but bring in the best VFX you can, like Zack Snyder's VFX supervisor, DJ Des Jardin. He's one of the best in the business. So, yeah, Green Lantern would be my introduction to a brand new existing DC Extended Universe. All the characters would be there and ready to play with. And as I say, Green Lantern is Star Wars in the DC universe. There are so many things you can do with that franchise. And as I say, I would spin it off onto HBO Max. Now, they are doing something. They are developing something with Green Lantern over on HBO Max. Why is it taking so long? Because it's a huge, ambitious project, and they're trying to get it right. And once that's on there, I think it could be the biggest comic book show, comic book thing ever. So let's hope that Walter Hamada does successfully set up this multiverse strategy, that we actually do see the Flash in the other films. I do have another question, by the way. Where's the Black Adam trailer? Where's the Shazam Fury of the Gods trailer? I know we've got 6 months until Black Adam, but I think by now we should have seen a trailer. Isn't that kind of worrying? So anyway, that's what I would do. I would start off with Green Lantern. And there's, as I say, so many good things you can do with that franchise. But then you have to think of a post-credit scene, and you need to hint towards the next movie. This is where I'm a bit stuck. What would my next movie be? When I would go to the sublime, to the ridiculous, I think the next movie would be about Connor Kent. Yes, Connor Kent would be a thing in this universe. So I've got some interesting ideas for Connor Kent. And one of the characters I absolutely love in DC is Jimmy Olsen. Now, I know Zack Snyder doesn't really think he's a great character or an important character, but I do. Jimmy Olsen has always been the ordinary comic book reader's way into the story. He's a bit like the companion in Doctor Who. So I would love to do something with Jimmy Olsen, but I would do something very, very different. So Connor Kent in the comics is a clone created by Lex Luthor using Lex's DNA and Clark, aka Superman's DNA. It's a really good concept. Imagine being the son of Lex Luthor and Clark Kent, two mortal enemies. How does that work out for a character? But what if in my universe Lex Luthor doesn't call him Connor? he calls him Jimmy Olsen, because Jimmy Olsen used to be alive. He used to be a thing, but he died. So what happens is they disguise him as Jimmy Olsen, or should I say LexCorp. Somehow this happens, or maybe Lex kills Jimmy Olsen and then he replaces Jimmy with this clone. So actually Connor Kent looks like Jimmy Olsen, right? Clark thinks he's Jimmy Olsen, but really he's his son. Imagine that. So I think that would be kind of an interesting beginning. As I say, I don't have it all in my head, but I think there's some interesting things to do with Connor Kent, considering he's the son, kind of Lex Luthor and Clark Kent. And I think that would always be an interesting story to tell. So that would probably be my next movie. Then my other movie next would be Dick Grayson. Yes, I would be going down the younger generation of the DC universe, because I think that would help to bring in more kind of young people interested into DC. So I would do Dick Grayson. He would be an established character. He would be Robin, but we're going to do the story where he evolves from Robin and becomes Nightwing. And so we would do things like that. And then probably next I would look to do a Cyborg movie. Very difficult after the job Ray Fisher did. Very good job. But you know, all iconic characters have different versions and different actors playing them, and we would definitely go down that line. And of course, eventually we would have a Justice League movie, maybe a Justice League versus the Suicide Squad. Maybe something original like Justice League versus the Elite, or something like that. You know, there's a lot of different things we could do. We could have Justice League Dark versus the Justice League. There's so many exciting things you can do if you just open your mind. So the DC has an untapped potential. It's amazing, really. I think that WB have owned DC Comics for about maybe 50 years or so. And really, the potential hasn't been seized on. We've only just recently started having a DC Extended Universe since 2013. That's so bad. We had 4 Superman movies, then that petered out. You know, we had Batman 89, Batman Returns, and another 2 underwhelming films. It's amazing. Whoever's been at WB in DC Entertainment has never utilized its live action properly. Now, we've had individual great movies, no question about that. But we've never tapped the potential of DC live action. And I think it's time that someone does. But I do believe if we do start again with DC live action, that we need an established DC universe, an established Justice League. Otherwise, it's going to take too long. And with Marvel already doing their thing, with Sega already doing their thing, and other franchises, we ain't got time to do one film at a time and slowly catch up. So if you establish everything already, this was the mistake they did with the Snyderverse. They were rushing towards Justice League. They were rushing towards Doomsday. And at the time, they couldn't even afford to take their time like Marvel did, because Marvel were a few films in already, and they were winning the popularity war. So even with the DCEU, if they started with an established universe, and you introduced them, and you could still develop the characters on screen, it would have worked. It's just a different way of going at the same material, and it works. An established DC universe now is the best thing to do. This is why they're doing this with the Flash movie. Brand new Justice League, already established when Barry goes back to the new timeline. It's smart. You can't take your time and build up a Justice League. You can't. It's not going to work. No one is patient. No one's going to wait for a DC expanded universe to do that. So you definitely need the universe to be there already. And that's what I would do with it. Now, I don't have a defined plan on an arc, but we would need an arc from the very first film, that is Green Lantern. So what I would say about the story arc, phase 1 of my DC Extended Universe, is that Sinestro is cooking something up. And he's actually creating a kind of gang, kind of an organized crime in a way of supervillains. He's getting a selection of supervillains to join him. So it's Sinestro. Then he gets Brainiac. He gets the best, most awesome villains because he has a plan, just not of world domination, of universal domination. And of course, I wouldn't want these villains to just be moustache twirling. There's a reason Sinestro is doing this. I can't think of the reason, but maybe in his mind he can see the galaxies and the universes and the multiverse. He can see that maybe they're dying and that no one's doing anything about it, and he believes that he can. So he is trying to create some kind of dominion or something like that. I'd have to think about it a lot deeper than just coming on a video and discussing it. But that's what I would be doing. Sinestro and DC's most iconic villains would be setting up their own group. And ultimately, in a Justice League movie, we would be building towards that. But everything would already be established. I mean, I've heard a lot about this Green Lantern HBO Max show, and Sinestro, what they're doing with Sinestro sounds fucking awesome. Sinestro is one of the best characters in DC Comics. And again, I'm surprised he hasn't been utilized so much better. When I see Mark Strong's performance in Green Lantern as Sinestro, Sinestro is actually the best thing about that movie. Even his costume doesn't look that bad. He looks better than Ryan Reynolds does in his costume. That's interesting. Maybe Mark Strong put up a bit of a fight and he got them to sort it out. So Mark Strong is the best thing about the Green Lantern movie. And Sinestro is such a great character. Personally, maybe we could bring him back because I think he's the perfect Sinestro anyway. I think they nailed it. Now, they're not bringing Mark Strong back for the Green Lantern Corps TV show, which is a shame, but they brought in a new actor, and I'm sure he'll do a great job. So, yeah, I love Sinestro because I don't know the comics so well, but I'm trying to read some comics now, and I'm trying to get into Green Lantern right now. As I say, most of the stuff I learned about Green Lantern is from the awesome animated series that spun off from the movie. Now, it doesn't continue from the movie, from the Ryan Reynolds movie, but it's a really good animated show, and you should really check it out. And this is what I would be doing with a DC Extended Universe, because if you utilize Green Lantern properly and create a franchise within a franchise, it is huge. If you have Sinestro building up to, utilizing all the villains in the DC universe for some dominion, for some galactic takeover, it would be very exciting for fans. And yes, the post-credit scene thing that Feige utilized back in Iron Man 1 is a good idea. Now, he didn't invent the post-credit scene. Other people did it. Masters of the Universe did it with Frank Langella's Skeletor in 1987. It wasn't much, but we found out it was still alive, and he screams, "I'll be back." And we got excited because we thought that meant there'll be more. There wasn't more, but the potential was always there. And by the way, Frank Langella is still alive. They should do a Frank Langella Skeletor movie. I would watch the shit out of that. So the post-credit scene thing is a good thing. Now, a lot of kind of discussions have been asked of me. Should the DCEU be like the MCU? Should it have the tone? Should it have the comedy? Listen, I think these kind of films should have the odd gag in them, but I don't think they should be a sitcom. I don't like the way the MCU crack jokes after a bad things happen to lighten up the mood. And people do this in real life. When you're feeling down, they try and lighten up the mood. But sometimes you want to punch them, don't you? Oh, cheer up. I hate that. When you're in a bad mood and someone... No. So I would have some humour when it was right to do humour, but I wouldn't pad out my whole film with humour. I wouldn't force feed humour in it. I'd let it come out naturally through the story. But I believe with these kind of plans and people who actually know DC a lot more working alongside me, I think it would be very, very interesting. And Green Lantern is the most underutilized character in DC live action. I know there's others, but he's the most awesome character out there. So my introduction to an already established DC universe would be Green Lantern. It's the only way to do it, everyone. Everything exists already, so you don't have to introduce anything. they're there. And by the way, now I go back to my slate. I think maybe we would do Green Lantern, and maybe then we would do maybe the Connor Kent, maybe we'd do Dick Grayson, but after Dick Grayson, we would do Supergirl. And I've got some very interesting things to do with that. Now, my idea for a Supergirl movie is to change the origins up a bit. You see, in a lot of the comics, Supergirl is older than Superman. When she's a teenager, he's still a baby. So how about Brainiac has been bottling planets in the galaxy, and he's ready to bottle up Krypton. So Supergirl sees this, grabs the baby Kal-El and leaves in a ship just before Krypton is bottled. They go to Earth, and it's not the Kents that find them. In fact, Kara raises Kal-El herself. And that's the kind of Supergirl movie I will be looking to do. You see, people want certain things to stay the same when you're adapting comics or these iconic characters, but they will accept great ideas, great changes. Look at Smallville, Lex Luthor, being part of a young Clark Kent's life in the Smallville TV show. Now, that was in a comic, in a Superboy comic, but it wasn't really law. So Alan Miles took that and made it a whole thing. So a pre-Superman story became the trials of Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, and it was amazing. So I think if you've got good ideas, fans are already, what I would say is fans are always kind of prepared to kind of embrace good ideas, but they're not willing to embrace bad ideas. So I want to know what you think of my idea, and let me know. Would you reboot the DCEU? Would you trash everything? Would you delete the Snyderverse? Would you delete the central DCEU universe and do what I'm doing and starting again in a new, already established universe? Let me know in the comments below. This has been the DCEU Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives, please. Comment, like, share, and subscribe and tell the whole world about me. So until we see each other again, goodbye. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen.